And here you have it, the typical bullshit that attracts a lot of stupid, lazy people. How to make, you've seen this stuff, how to make $100, $200 per day, easy, right? Now, if you don't realize it, it's a scam. So, everyone's favorite, I don't know what he calls himself, consumer finance influencer, Graham Stephan. And of course, Graham, like all these guys, you'll notice Kevin does it too. Not all of them, but a lot of them, what they'll do is hello, how you doing, everybody? Oh, it's a great day. Because most of the people who tune into these charlatans are depressed. They feel like shit. And let me tell you something, folks. If you want to get out of your rut, if you're depressed, if you're feeling down, you don't want to listen to these guys. They're going to steer you into the gutter. Okay? The last thing you want to do is waste your time on these frauds, these con artists. Get up off your ass and do something for yourself. So he wants to tell you how to make $100 per day with cryptocurrency. So basically, you don't have to really work, right? You can keep a low lifestyle, modest lifestyle, and you can just make $100 a day. And maybe you'll have some other type of a scam to try and pull, right? Let's listen to what Graham has to say.
What's up, guys? It's Graham here. So it's about...
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? And Graham, he's always sitting down, by the way. And, he wants to hide his minor stature. And you can tell Graham is a very small fellow. Anyway.
Time that we talk about the holy grail of building wealth, investing, and financial independence, and that would be passive income.
So you notice he always has his little car in the background, right? Ty Lopez, financial independence. Folks, now let me just go ahead and remind everyone, some of you haven't heard this before, and probably a lot of you who are listening to this are so ignorant you don't even think it matters. I'm a world expert. I don't even call myself a world expert in consumer finance because consumer finance is a scam. Anybody who says they are a consumer finance expert or speaker or teacher is a snake oil salesman. Okay, I'm a world expert in investments. Predicted the financial crisis better than anybody in detail. That's fact, written in 2 books. I'm not going to go over the details of that. Worked on Wall Street. Been in the financial industry as a financial professional for more than 2 decades. I'm here to tell you, folks, that these guys like this, you don't want to be listening to. He's a huckster. He is a con artist. He's pitching a lot of bullshit that's going to get you nowhere. And in fact, as I have proven in the past, he's a liar. He has lied. He's played the fake it till you make it strategy, the fraudster strategy, lying about his income, faking it until he makes it. And that was probably, I guess, Tony Robbins made that popular. Tony Robbins, the fake it till you make it scam artist. And of course, many people now, they think it's okay to do that. But all these guys, if they're really successful and they're providing value as they claim, made a lot of money in real estate. They made a lot of money in the stock market, right? But so why are they pitching stupid, corny videos geared towards the mentality of 8-year-olds? And they're pitching affiliate links and buy me coffee and buy my merch, because they make their money through that process, folks. They're not really successful unless you consider scam artists and liars successful. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but basically he's going to be talking about ways to make money in cryptocurrency, passive income.
And that would be passive income. What's up, guys? It's Graham here. So it's about time that we talk about the holy grail of building wealth, investing, and financial independence. And
folks, this kid doesn't know anything about investing. That's fact. Write it down. Yeah, he sells courses. A kid who didn't go to college. He worked as a real estate salesman for 3 or 4 years approximately. And he doesn't know anything about investing. He doesn't know anything about business. That's fact. He's a clown. Financial independence. When you hear financial freedom, wealth building, financial independence, those are buzzword terms that should tell you you're dealing with a con artist. That's a fact. Write it down. True professionals in the investment world, in the financial industry, don't use those terms. I know because I'm one of those people, professionals in the financial industry. I've worked with billionaires. I've worked with multi-billion-dollar firms. I'm telling you right now, folks, I've worked with legitimate people. You just don't use that clickbaity nonsense. That's the type of stuff that frauds, con artists use. People that are on the side, they come out of the side of Tony Robbins, and they brand themselves as consumer finance guys. Guys like David Bach, his mentor's Tony Robbins, and he's tried to brand himself as a consumer finance guy. Now, David Bach, it's kind of interesting because he was working, apparently, I haven't confirmed this, but what he claims is he was working for several years on Wall Street as a stockbroker. Yet, he moves on. Matter of fact, he claims to have been very successful. But yet, he's moving on with trash books and stupid garbage. Something is not right there. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, let's go ahead and listen now to what Graham has for us.
That would be passive income, but with a slight twist. See, most of us already know how to make passive income with stocks, dividends, REITs, and real estate. But
Okay, folks, passive income is another scam that you're hearing. It's being disseminated almost obsessively by these millennials and these Y and X generations, especially the millennials. Let me tell you something which I've been talking about for years. There's no such thing as passive income. Fact, write it down. People who are claiming that there is are idiots, and therefore you don't want to follow an idiot, or scam artists, and you certainly don't want to follow a scam artist. There's one exception to that, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay? And remember who I am versus who this twerp is. So anyone out there who talks about passive income, well, I'm saying there's not passive income. So who's credible? Okay? And I'm not the one pitching nonsense. And of course, he's going to talk about, he says, oh, this video is completely free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just ask you to subscribe if you like the content. Well, no, the content's not free. You're making AdSense revenue, and you're trying to build your subscriber base so you can pitch them bullshit, including your stupid courses. But let me explain about passive income, folks. Every single type of income that you can think of is not passive. Now, these idiots basically, they talk about passive income if you're not working, right? So they typically refer to it as investing. I've even seen somebody talk about passive income as being a residual revenue or income from writing a book. No, that's not passive income, because you had to write the damn book. You had to put in, well, actually, a lot of these fraudsters don't write their books. They just hire some ghostwriter, and the smaller guys like this guy they would hire someone from India to write their nonsense book. But you have to put work in. There's a lot of hours, a lot of time, there's money, right? It's not passive. They'll talk about investments like he is. Real estate, right? The stock market. He's claiming that's passive income. Folks, it's not passive income. In fact, just today, I was out at one of my properties, and I'm having to deal with a complete freaking nightmare. I'm having to deal with major foundation issues. And I've been having to deal with this stuff. There was water 6-8 inches deep in the crawl space. The pump was not working. Had an estimator come out there, and we're looking at $45,000. Foundation repair. Got to put a new drainage system in there. Got to fix the floor joints and the main beams and all this stuff. Not to mention, I was in there last week trying to look at a unit that a tenant moved out. Folks, there's nonstop problems. And by the way, FYI, for those of you saying, well, that's why you hire a management company. I do have a property manager. That's right. I do. But there's certain things that those big things like that, you can't just hand over to a property manager. And I can tell you about, that's a whole nother, and that's funny because you talk, Graham and Kevin, meet Kevin, these guys should be talking about this stuff. If they were really, they're obviously, there's something strange. I don't even know if they have investment properties. There's a lot of information that people should know about property management. I'm not going to get into that today. But my point is, folks, is that there's no such thing as passive income. Even in the stock market, you have to know what you have. And you have to continuously, not every day, but you have to periodically reevaluate things. Your portfolio, the investments that you have, you need to make decisions. You need to follow up and keep abreast of what's going on. That's not passive income. Okay? It's not passive. Anyone who pitches passive income is a idiot or liar, con artist. Okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that there's one exception. And by the way, all this discussion I'm giving you is on the fly. I haven't thought about it. It's it's on the fly. It's completely off the top of my head. I'm not doing some BS presentation to suck you in, because I know most people that hear this, it's going to fly past their head anyway. They want to hear ways to make money. It's funny. I'll tell you a little story if I remember later on about this millennial guy, referring to when I'm cautioning him about risk. But so investments, right? It's not passive. It's not passive income. Okay? It's not passive income. I received just actually, was it last week, in the course of, I guess, 2 to 3 days, I received income, dividend income of about $20,000. Okay? I think it was two or 3 day period. I think it was $25,000, something like that. That's not passive. It's not passive income, because I had to do the work, and I continue to have to do the work to reassess these companies paying those dividends. It's not passive, folks. It's not passive. Now, the exception that I mentioned early on in this discussion, there might be another exception. I'd have to think about it. But there's the one exception I would mention is it is passive income only if, say, somebody gives you the asset, right? You inherit the asset, or someone gives you the asset, and in that case you could argue that it's still not passive income, because if you really care about preserving and protecting that asset, then you're going to need to continue to monitor or to maintain that asset in some way, shape, or form. So the easiest example would be an investment. Let's say that you inherited some securities, some stocks, a bond fund or something like that. Well, obviously it's free money. You didn't have to pay anything for it, right? So you're receiving this income. Now, if you're going to be irresponsible, you're just going to ignore it. Right? You're going to ignore it. Now, maybe you don't know anything about investments, which is one reason why it would be probably a good idea to stay away from it. So that's kind of one exception of passive income, but you're not generating passive income that way. Something is given to you, okay? But if you work hard for your money and you're going to invest in real estate or the stock market, it's not passive, because you don't want to lose that principal investment. You're going to need to do something to reasonably provide upkeep and maintenance on that investment. Even if you have, in the case of real estate, a property management company, first of all, you've got to watch those guys, okay? And you have to sometimes manage them. I can tell you a horror story, if I wanted to, about the previous property management company that I had employed. They were a disaster. They were a complete disaster. You know why? Because I let things go. I was out of the country for a long time, and I went to one of the properties, and it looked like a zoo. I kid you not. There was a full swing set in the front yard. In the front yard, okay, there were big dog chains on the trees, and they have big dogs. And the dogs, by the way, these tenants were not approved for pets. They have big dogs, and they were chained to the tree. They had dog houses in the front of the yard. It was just a complete circus show. So, and once again, I had a property management company maintaining that. Same property management company in another property. There were repairs that needed to be done on the gutters. A lot of these property management companies, folks, they're basically leasing agents. And they want to go there. They rent out the property. Okay. They do what needs to be done to rent out the property. Okay. Heating goes out, AC goes out. Okay. They call the contractors. That's a whole nother topic of discussion, by the way. But they'll do that. But when it comes to, overseeing the property in terms of, making sure that things aren't out of control and so forth, they don't give a shit typically. Okay. I mean, it varies depending upon, some are better than others. But I'm just telling you that until you get to know your property management company, there's a lot of work involved in overseeing things. And even still, I have a very good, a very competent, responsible property management company right now. And I'm very involved in this property. There's two particular properties that are that I'm dealing with. Okay, because they can't. You want a property management company to oversee and take care of major foundation issues? Is that what you want, to make these decisions and to hire the contractors that they quote unquote deem fit? You understand? So those are just a couple of examples. There's so many other examples. Stock market is a similar situation. There's no such thing as passive income, folks. These people who are trying to sell you the idea of free money, easy money, they're toxic. Stephan is toxic. He's disinformation. He's a scam artist. He wants the clicks. He wants the subs so he can get the ad revenue and he can pitch his courses. He's a scam artist, folks. Stop empowering these fraudsters. I know I'm speaking. It's a waste of time. It's futile for the most part, but I still have to speak about it. It's like telling the cult members of Joel Osteen or Benny Hinn, right? I mean, you can sit there and tell these people, but they're not going to listen. You see? So let's continue.
Very few people realize that they can make passive income with cryptocurrency, and even fewer people realize just how much money they can make. So let's go over a few of the ways that you could begin earning passive income with cryptocurrency as a complete beginner.
You notice how how you can earn passive income. Folks, let's listen to this again. I just now noticed this.
They can make. So let's go over a few of the ways that you could begin earning passive income with crypto.
Notice that emphasis on the passive. It reminds me of somebody, actually. Let's no, this is not Joel Osteen. I'm going to go over him a little bit later, actually, but kind of remind me of this guy. Anybody know who this is? Don Lapre. Remember this guy? Listen.
The second way to make money that I stumbled onto was placing tiny classified ads in the newspaper. If you create and test one tiny classified ad.
Now, of course, it's a little more exaggerated, but clearly Stephan he's from the same tribe, same ilk, same scum, pulling the same bullshit. No doubt about it. What's different than this guy? Nothing. These guys, folks, selling their courses, they're no different than Don Lapre. And Don Lapre, he had a tragic ending. He was put in jail for scamming, for his various scams. And I believe he committed suicide in jail. And to be honest with you, the lives that these people destroy with their bullshit, I have to believe that I'd like to see that happen to them as well, because I care for the society.
Cryptocurrency is a passive income. Even fewer people realize just how much money they can make. So let's go over a few of the ways that you could begin earning passive income with cryptocurrency as a complete beginner that you could start doing immediately. And even better, because let's be real, the entire cryptocurrency space is full of a whole bunch of sketchy people. None of this is sponsored. I have zero financial interest in any of these companies or strategies that I'm talking about. And I'll do
Yeah, folks, this guy, believe me, he's setting himself up, be pitching all types of nonsense related to this.
My best to break everything down as much as possible. So without further ado, here's everything that I have learned along the way that's helped me out. All I ask for in return, if you find this video helpful or enjoyable in any way, just subscribe or hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. That's literally it. I'm not trying to sell you on anything here. It's all just completely free information. So if you wouldn't mind just doing me that quick favor, thank you guys so much.
Stop begging for people to subscribe and like you. Just stop it. It's disgusting. You shameless loser.
With that said, let's begin. All right, so first, the easiest and most straightforward way of making passive income with cryptocurrency is
passive income.
What's called an interest-bearing account, which is likely the quickest way anyone could get started. Just like you could go to the bank, deposit your money, and get a lovely 0.5% interest rate, you could deposit your cryptocurrency throughout several exchanges, earn a preset return depending on the amount you hold, and believe it or not, the return is actually pretty good. Like I said, none of this is sponsored, but as a few examples, BlockFi pays as high as 4.5% on Bitcoin, 5% on Ethereum, and 9% on USDC. Celsius pays even more at up to 8% on Bitcoin, 7% on Ethereum, and nearly 11% on USDC, and Voyager pays the same interest rate regardless of how much you hold on the platform. For myself, my thought is that if I'm planning to hold on to the underlying cryptocurrency anyway, I may as well earn some interest in the process. Otherwise, I'm leaving money on the table for what probably amounts to just a few minutes worth of work. It would be kind of like choosing to keep your money in cash under a mattress instead of moving it over to a bank to get paid interest. The concept is the same, but the money you make is drastically different. Now, usually at this point, the go-to question is, how are they able to pay out such high interest rates when banks are barely able to pay out anything? And that.
So you'll notice he's trying to disparage any critics of what he's trying to say there, right? He wants to make you feel like an idiot for questioning those interest rates. Folks, let me just go ahead and discuss something right now. When these banks are paying you an interest rate, they're banks. They're credible. And they have FDIC insurance, Federal Depository Insurance, okay, for each account up to $250,000. Now, I'm not saying all accounts are insured by the FDIC, but most of them are. All you have to do is make sure, okay, because some types of accounts are not. Some types of money market accounts, but these accounts in cryptocurrency, they're not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. In fact, there's probably some types of lockups that they insist on. In other words, you decrease your liquidity. And aside from all that, who the hell is going to buy cryptocurrency? You have to be a stooge. It's a scam. You lose your money, that's it, buddy. That's it. You have no. You can go to nobody to get your money back, right? And if they're paying out these high rates of interest, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. It's fueling the speculative bubble in cryptocurrencies, the pyramid scheme, which I've been talking about for several years, which nobody in the crypto space wants to mention. How cryptocurrencies began as a peer-to-peer decentralized means of low fee transfer, right? Peer-to-peer. You to me, we transfer money between us. It's very low fees, right? And nobody else is involved. No one's talked about the fact that the exchanges, which are run by Wall Street and venture capitalists for the most part, they've turned cryptocurrencies into a casino. And it's a fee machine. It's a fee generating machine, aside from the fact that every single trade is potentially ripping you off because they basically determine what the buy and sell price is, right? There's a bid and an ask. There's a spread between the cryptocurrencies. They decide. And let me just say, the whole selling of order flow in the stock market, I've already addressed this with my clients a couple of years ago. That's created a big problem in the stock market of huge spreads in many cases. And the market makers who are buying the order flow, they're able basically to steal money from investors who are putting market orders in. The situation is bad enough on Wall Street. Of course, the SEC has done nothing about it. I've complained to them many times about banning selling of order flow. There's a criminal mafia going on there. I doubt that's going to happen. the situation with cryptocurrencies is probably 1,000 times worse. Okay, and the problem is that the vast majority of people don't even understand what I've just said in the cryptocurrency space, and if they do, they don't care. That's their problem. So what's going on? Well, obviously they're borrowing your cryptocurrency. Why? Because they're lending it to others for all types of schemes and scams, basically, is what's going on. And it's pretty scary to think, it's a house of cards in the cryptocurrency. A house of cards going on with not just the currencies, but also in these exchanges that are engaging in these behaviors. And you better believe, folks, when that house of cards comes tumbling down, the exchanges are going to be hurt the least and the last. It's the people that are holding those cryptocurrencies that are going to suffer first. Because remember, there's no regulation. Okay? They can do whatever they want. Okay? So let me just go ahead and close this out. He's going to have other nonsense about cryptocurrencies. Folks, there's no easy money. Okay? There's no easy money. Anybody who's pointing that out to you is just a scam artist. And especially when they're making money from pitching that lie. And he's making money doing that. I'll give you another example, an analogy here. Well, you know what? You can go to Vietnam, by the way, and you can put money in the banks in Vietnam, and guess what? Interest rates they pay. They're paying up to 8.5%, 9% interest. That's right. 8.5%, 9% interest. And the interest rates are low. So what's going on? Obviously, folks, if interest rates are low and the payout for your deposit is high, there's two things you should expect. You should expect some type of liquidity restraint. That is to say, you can't just go on any given day and withdraw all that money out of there. And the second thing is they're engaging in risky behavior with that money. They're lending that money out to people who are paying high interest rates for that loan, right? So if they're paying you 9% for your deposit, how much are people paying to borrow that money from the bank, right? They're probably paying at least 12%, maybe 13% or 14%. And in Vietnam in particular, what's gone on over the past couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, is there's a massive amount of speculation in undeveloped land. So, there's a lot of speculation in undeveloped land, and people, that could cause some issues with the banking system in Vietnam. So I just wanted to point that out, okay? So, risk is important. And speaking of risk, a couple of years ago, I was having a discussion with this millennial who thought he knew everything, like most of these millennials, right? And I'm not going to get into the details, but the bottom line is I was telling him about risk. I was trying to tell this guy who is typical millennial clown who just recently got involved in the stock market, doesn't understand jack. He's getting all his ideas from all these ARK investor, Shamath Palahapatapatapia, whatever his name is, that con man, and all these other idiots out there. Doesn't know what's going on, doesn't have an appreciation for risk. And I'm trying to explain to him about risk. And he kind of laughs. Oh yeah, you're worried about this. And folks, let me tell you something. There's two ways to learn about risk, okay? You can learn from somebody like myself who understands risk and understands the importance of risk. And the second way you can learn about risk is the hard way. So you can, if you're listening to me, I can help you avoid, or let's say mitigate, the losses that you are going to sustain learning about risk. Okay? But ultimately, most people have to learn the hard way about risk. And for some people, it's a very, very hard, treacherous lesson. It takes a long time. So you can go through and not appreciate risk and lose a lot of money. Okay? I'm just telling you right now, folks, that's just, you can't get away from that. Of course, the vast majority of people involved in cryptocurrency, in terms of numbers, not money, in terms of the numbers of people, they have no idea about risk. These kids, they don't know what's going on. They have no clue. And it's just shocking to me. The people who might have an idea about the risk, that's the big money. It's the drug cartels and the human sex trafficking, the terroristic groups. They don't really care because they're already facing risk of laundering their money, moving their money around. So they're prepared to deal with the risk in the cryptocurrency market of loss because they're already dealing with that anyway. But anyway, that's all I've got to say for today, folks. And the sooner you realize what I'm saying is true, to stay away from these guys and to stop looking for the next easy gravy train, the better off you're going to be in your life. Okay, just avoid all this shit. If you're doing the right thing, you're not even going to hear me or this guy or anybody else. You're going to stay off of the internet. You're going to stay off of YouTube. You're going to enjoy your life with your friends, with your family, or by yourself. Go to the park, enjoy nature. If you're wasting your life with these people, it's just you're destroying the opportunity that God gave you to live on this earth. And speaking of God, I'm going to bring an Antichrist here. And listen to this guy. This guy is kind of how a lot of these charlatans come across, especially this Tony Robbins and all these guys. They want to make you feel good, uplifting, motivational speaker, right?
Don't get stuck in the potholes of life.
Yeah.
Shake off the offenses.
Yeah.
Shake off what somebody said.
Yeah.
Shake off self-pity, bitterness. God saw everything that happened to you.
Amen.
He knows what was unfair. He knows how you were treated. Nothing is a surprise to him. If you'll keep moving forward, he'll not only bring...
Listen to the music, by the way. I mean, isn't this so contrived? How can you even, when you got people that they're playing the music, the dramatic, the emotional. I mean, it's obviously this is a con. It's a con.
You out, he'll bring you out better.
There you go. And you notice, by the way, this kind of raises a point. Let me just go ahead and close with this. Ever since Joel Osteen, and I'm sure there's a few others, but he's the king of motivational speaking with the religious zealots. Ever since Joel Osteen rose to fame and power, I don't know how long it's been. It's been, I guess, more than 20 years. Easily 20 years when he was very, very big. You'll notice that guys like Tony Robbins kind of shifted their strategy a little bit, right? Tony Robbins realized that he's not the so-called motivational speaker anymore as much. Joel Osteen's taken that crown. So Tony Robbins has been getting more into other things. Like now, for instance, well, more recently, I guess over the past decade, Tony Robbins, he wants to tell you he's a financial expert, right? And he's a business strategist. That's right. I mean, folks, really, I mean, you gotta, if you can't see these guys are con artists, I mean, you need to seek help. You need to seek help, because if you're chasing this bullshit dream that's being presented to you by other people looking to take your money, you're not going to get anywhere in life. Okay? If you want something, do it yourself. Rely on yourself, because you know what? If you're incompetent, if you're ignorant, you're going to learn the hard way, which is the only way, really, the only definitive way to really learn a permanent lesson. Okay? terms of getting back as an investor, if it's coming down to here, almost irrespective of what's going on, I have to believe, if I have to make a call in advance, and of course I can change depending on what happens, but I have to believe this is where you want to start doing that 18, 17, around there. Their earnings report is a complete game changer, at least for quite a while. Bottom line, NVIDIA now is going to enter the realm of Tesla, Apple, and all these other big, I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works. I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works.